Who are we missing?
We're waiting for Indira.
Okay.
And don't see Matt.
Dan, I didn't even recognize you. I like the beard.
It's the 2020 thing.
I like it. Right. We have a full house. I like it. And Matt, you're sideways.
I'm working on it.
All right. So we have everybody. Mark's there in the dark. Matt, Jeff, Indira. Okay. There we go.
No, there we go.
Okay. I think we're set. Okay, so I'm going to call this to order at 6:01 p.m. Just looking for a motion to go ahead and adjourn to open session, reconvene to open session.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
And there were no actions taken in closed session, so nothing to report out. And then we'll just do a little roll call vote. Remember, everybody, that you have to unmute and I have to hear you anytime you motion, second, all in favor, all that stuff. So President Elkishan here, Clerk Reed,
Here?
Trustee Lopez Jones,
Here.
Trustee Maxfield,
Here.
Trustee Galindo,
Yeah.
and Miss Student Representative, Miss Rubio.
Here.
Yay. All right. Okay, and if we can have Paula put the flag up. Everybody always mutes and I'm the only one saying it. Makes me nervous. All right. If everybody's ready, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. And Erin, do we have any changes on the agenda today?
We do not, thank you.
Okay, perfect. So I'm just looking for a motion to approve and adopt the agenda for tonight.
So moved.
Second?
And Matt, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Okay. And 3.6, the district mission statement. We are a collaboratively, culturally rich educational community where a rigorous and innovative curriculum prepares our students to be successful contributors to our global society. And then we will move on to recognitions. So 4.1. Let me just start by saying this, Raul, and then I'll turn it over to you. So the Board of Education recognizes students, employees, or members of the community who have received recognition for academic or athletic achievement or who have made a significant contribution of any kind to our district. And so today Raul has someone that he would like to recognize.
All right, thank you. And good evening, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to acknowledge this month the great work that our after-class enrichment program, or better known as ACE, is doing at our school. I believe that it's the people that make the program, and this is definitely true when it comes to our ACE program. Brandon Keene, our site coordinator, Cassie Rodriguez, Joey Penn, and Blair Nakamoto have been providing excellent support and mentoring to our students. This year, they have continued to provide after-school tutoring and mentoring services via Zoom, and they were the first to bring students back on campus for in-person school day support. We currently have 11 students taking advantage of this program and are hoping to possibly expand the program in the next few weeks. The ACE program has also been involved in activities outside of school. They coordinated the garden cleanup day where they were weeding the day and winterizing the garden. And then they also set up a stop station for the city's drive-through Halloween in our school parking lot this Saturday, where they distributed candy to more than 400 trick-or-treaters. And they also are planning a mural project that will be going up outside of room 33 in the next few weeks. During a typical year, the activities, tutoring, and mentoring that the ACE program does are a welcome addition to the education at our school. This year, their activities are crucial to providing student support. The ACE program not only provides students with opportunities to do outside activities, but that I've described already, but most importantly, they also provide students with a positive place to belong and a part of something special. So congratulations to the ACE team on a well-deserved recognition for your service to our students and our community.
Thank you so much.
That's great. Thank you so much. Blair, thank you for jumping on. Did I miss someone else who jumped on part of ACE?
Brandon's there.
Oh, Brendan's there. Perfect. Thank you so much. I mean, you can imagine you guys are offering something that's even more important this year. So whether it's 11 students or no matter how many we get on, thank you so much for everything.
We're happy to do it.
Great. Thank you, guys. Obviously, you are welcome to stay for the entirety of the meeting, but if you have other things you have to do, we will not be offended if you clip out. And let us know if there's anything you need. Thank you for everything.
Thank you. Thank you, Raul.
I don't know if you guys want to say anything. You're welcome to the floor if you have anything you want to share.
I think coming back from COVID, we definitely wanted to kind of go bigger than we have in the past. COVID, not being with the kids really affected, I know, Cassie and myself. So when we came back, we wanted to serve the schools, serve the district, and kind of make a bigger impact this year. So I was happy at the opportunity to provide the in-person program, but then all the work that Blair's been doing with our service days and mural projects. I think I just kind of want to create our program to where we're kind of synced up with the school. And this year, I really feel like we're making that difference and impact.
Great.
Yeah, I think with sorry, can everyone hear me?
A little bit louder.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to say, cause I, just got here in September. And, I just kind of got really excited to join ACE. And I have a background helping with like after school classes, whether it's with art or tutoring. And so I was just really hoping to bring that to life kind of with Calistoga as well. And after the wildfires too, as well as COVID, I just thought, whatever help I could provide with that, I was happy to. And so being able to connect with the staff so far has really helped with that. And so I really appreciate it a lot. So thank you guys who I've reached out to so far.
Great. Well, thank you again from all of us for every little bit that you're doing to help the kids feel more adjusted and hopefully be getting back to normal soon.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank
Perfect.
you guys.
Great. Thank you. Stay on or go off, whatever feels good, but we'll hope to see you around campus.
Okay, thanks so much. You too.
Okay, and then moving on to 5. Make sure I'm in the right order here. Public business from the floor. Maybe I should just ask Paula if we have anything before I go into that. Okay, so is that okay if I skip over that since we don't have any?
Actually, Julie, you should go ahead for the record and read it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So this portion of the agenda allows an individual the opportunity to address the board on any item regarding board business that's not on the agenda. Without taking action or entering into dialogue with the public, board members may briefly respond to statements made or ask clarifying questions about topics posed by the public. So unless I'm wrong, we don't have anything tonight, unless anybody wants to speak up. Okay. All right. Aaron keeps me on the straight and narrow, which is good. Thank you, Erin. Okay, and then 6 are public hearings. So our protocol for public hearings is, as an elected governing board of the Calistoga Joint Unified School District, the Board of Trustees conducts public hearings for the purpose of maintaining open communication with parents, students, and residents of the Calistoga community and school district. Through the public hearing process, trustees seek ideas, viewpoints regarding the efficiency and quality of district-sponsored programs or any other in the operation of the district and its schools. The trustees believe that open communication is a key element in the ongoing process of district, school, and program improvement. So, having said that, we are going to go into 6.2, our annual 5-year developer fee report. And Maureen's going to present, but first we have to open the public hearing at 6:11. So go ahead, Maureen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. We are going to conduct a public hearing for both our annual developer fee report and our 5-year report. Government Code Section 66006 requires an annual report to the board within 180 days of the close of the fiscal year. And then Government Code Section 66001 requires a 5-year report to the board on the 5th fiscal year following the first deposit into the fund. Because we don't want to keep track of that, the board does see both reports every year, and we just continue that 5-year report on a yearly basis instead. Both reports contain certain information according to the government code sections, and we have to fulfill the requirements of what's in that government code section within the report. So both reports have bold letterings as to what those requirements are, and then the answers to the requirements are within the report. So hopefully the board got a chance to review both of those reports. I didn't want to go over all of them in detail tonight. We're going to start with the annual report. And in 1920, we received $3.48 per square foot for residential developer fees and 56 cents for commercial developer fees per square foot. We did do a justification study in July of 2020 this year. And this is going to allow us to increase our residential fees to $4.08 per square foot and 66 cents for commercial per square foot. Those increases in developer fees took place on October 9th. So now anyone that comes into the district to file developer fees for building will pay those increased fees due to that justification study, and that we have justification to charge the increased rate. The beginning cash balance in our fund for developer fees was $335,036.01. We collected $50,954.52 in fees for 1920. You'll notice on the 5-year report that this is a lot less than what we've reported in, or what we've collected in previous years. And I think that has a lot to do with just COVID and you know, things being put to a stop in March. We also received a little over $6,800 in interest in the fund. Our expenditures for the year were a master plan contract. We paid about 70% of that contract. We still have about 30% left to pay. That was a total of $71,062.50. And then we had our justification study that came out of there, as well as our COP payments and fees. Our total expenditures were $172,946.02. Our ending fund balance is now $219,871.78. And really, that is pretty much what we need to report within the annual report, is how much we charge for the fees per square footage and what our expenditures and what our income was. On to the 5-year report. Revenues includes developer fees paid and interest earned for 5 years. We also 1 year did receive some COP interest that was due to us through the bond refinance in 2014. So that is part of our 5-year income as well. And over the 5 years, we've had a total revenue of a little over $941,000. And then over the 5 years, we've had expenditures that total a little over $1 million. We mostly use these fees to pay back our COPS loan, and that's a certificate of participation loan. We took out that certificate of participation loan to do construction back when we did modernization of the sites. And so, of course, we did do modernization and improve sites, and that is an okay fee to have come out of developer fees, the repayment of that loan. After we pay this Cox loan back, which will probably be in about 2023, we have 3 years left, we will use these expenditures, or we will use the income for developer fees to carry out the master plan that we're in development of right now. The district has spent all the funds that were collected prior to the 15-16 school year, and therefore there are no refunds due to developers at this time. So that's one reason we have to do the 5-year report, is we have to make sure that prior 5 years we did spend all of the money that we received in, and that is part of the government code requirements. And we fulfill that, so we are in compliance with the 5-year report, as well as being in compliance with the annual report. Are there any questions from the board?
I'm kind of curious, developer fees, we only garner on new builds, right? Or will we get it if there's rebuilds after the fires?
Rebuilds as well, over 500 square feet, and we don't typically charge developer fees for rebuilds of fires. And yes, we'll probably be seeing a lot of that, I would assume, in the next probably 2 to 3 years. They still need to come into the office and go through the process of, you know, if they end up building more than what their original square footage was that they lost in the fire, then those could be liable to developer fees.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, that was a good question, Julie. Thanks for asking that. Is it just, is that our policy that we don't charge for rebuilds? Or is that, you know, something coming from state guidance?
In the guidelines for developer fees through the state?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it is part of the developer fee guidelines within the state of California, but I would actually like to confirm that for you, Matt, and see if it's a county regulation versus a state regulation. So I will look that up for sure and let the board know.
Yeah, it's a one-time property fee that the property pays the school impacts, and you hit it right on the head, Maureen. It's any additional rooms that might house a potential student, then additional fee would it be paid to the district.
Yeah, and I think Matt's asking if it's a state regulation that we don't charge in a fire, or if it's a county regulation. So I know it's not a district policy. It's either the state or the county, and I don't know which one it is, Matt.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anybody else? No? Okay. Oops, sorry, closing the public hearing at 6:18, and we'll move on to our information discussion, section 7. And we'll start off with the Sfp Audit Report from Maureen.
Okay, we had our very first official audit of a modernization project due to Proposition 51 passing in 2016. Calistoga Elementary did a modernization project that took place from 2012 through 2015. We received state funds to assist with pieces of that project, and we received those funds in 2017 after the project was already complete. Because the funds were part of the Prop 51 passage, it was required that districts have to hire an outside auditor to audit the expenditures of the state funds that we received. And so the audit objective is to determine whether the funds identified by the district on the detailed list of expenditures for the project listed have been expended in accordance with the requirements of the Leroy F. Green School Facilities Act of 1998 and grant agreements and the 1920 guide for annual audits of K-12 local agencies and state compliance reporting. So it's 3 different areas that we have to comply with through the audit. I worked directly with the auditor, and they had a list of items that they were going to audit, and that was part of the methodology that's in the report. All expenditures were properly accounted for in the modernization project for the elementary school, and there were no findings in the audit. So that was some good news. And I don't think we received any state funding on the junior senior high, so I think we're in the clear for audits from the state on modernization projects for now anyways, until we apply for some more funding. But no findings, and we are good to go.
Great, thank you, Maureen. Anybody else questions about that? Okay, then we are going to move on to 7.2, which is our proposed 2021 board meeting dates. So I'll turn it over to, do you want to say anything about that, Erin?
And these are just proposed dates. You, of course, will not vote on them until our organizational meeting in December. But this is an opportunity if you would like to suggest an alternate date so that it can be discussed by your fellow trustees before we bring it back to action, then now is the time to do so.
January 11th is a college championship. There's a Monday before then, if we can. Would I just would like to watch the game.
Well, I don't think we can go earlier because that's part of Christmas break. So take a peek at that date and then you could bring it back to Erin if we need to look at the Monday after.
I do, Julie, is add both the dates to the December agenda, and then you can vote on them as a group.
Okay.
Perfect. So yeah, just take a peek at those, and when we come back at the next meeting, we'll look to see if anybody has any conflicts. It's not that any of us have any big vacations planned. Probably going to be safe. All right, 7.3 board policies and administrative regulations, first reading. So Erin, will let you go through those real quick.
I'm actually presenting fewer first read policies than typical, and that's because we're completely caught up with CSBA's recommended revisions, and so I'm expecting to get a whole nother list of them anytime soon. So I'll bring back future ones at the December meeting. So very short list for you to review.
These were all policy changes at the state level.
They are, yes.
Yeah. Okay, did anybody have any questions about that? No? Okay. That's great. We'll look for them to come back next month. And then moving on to the most fun part of the night, reports. So we'll start off with Miss Nicole for the elementary school report.
All right, good evening, everyone. We've had quite a bit of activity at Calistoga Elementary School. Last week on Friday was our last day of what we call in-person MAP testing, which stands for Measurement of Academic Performance. All of our students who are enrolled in the blended learning model took it in person. There was a handful of students that were unable to make their test time. And so we're doing some remote makeups right now, and we should be finishing those up tomorrow. And the students who were enrolled in the Wildcat Academy tested entirely remotely. I do have to say it took a village to pull off this testing. I'd like to thank our teachers for working with families to make sure they knew when they were testing and to bring their devices and their headphones and microphones. They did a great job of messaging, and they were very consistent in communicating with our families. And then I'm grateful to the office for keeping track of our student cohorts and our COVID screen forms. On average, we had about 25% of our students show up per day to do the testing, and it was 2 days of testing, 1 day for English language arts and the other for math. And then finally, I want to thank Alex Indari, who offered the remote testing support and addressed IT issues in a really timely manner, not only with teachers, but also with families who were taking this test remotely. For Lcap goal number 2 in providing a healthy, safe, positive school environment, again, great gratitude to Chris Oakes, Jesus Avina, and Kyle Davis. They really did the extra mile for getting CES ready for in-person testing. They staged the ingress-egress arrows. They placed socially distanced dots, set up meeting areas for our primary students, got the temperature checking stations deployed. They also put out hand washing stations. And I think it was really good practice to see what in-person learning would look like. And for the most part, the in-person comings and goings went without a hitch. There are some areas that we're going to have to rethink if we have larger cohorts, but it was really invaluable to have that firsthand experience of working with students and seeing kind of firsthand what was going on. For Lcap goal number 3 of increasing parent engagement and enhancing communication, we had our PFO meeting this month, and I want to thank the PFO for participating in the drive-through Halloween celebration. We had a station over at Calistoga Elementary School, and they did a great job decorating it, and it was great to see the kids all costumed up. Also, I'm excited to announce that this Friday we are redeploying or re-engaging our parent engagement classes. And so we are going to be with Mentis to do a presentation on trauma-informed practices for our families. And so we'll be pushing out that link for our families. And then finally, last week, and I know Raul will probably talk about the secondary piece of this, last week we had our DLAC meeting. It was really well attended, very balanced representation from both elementary and secondary. We had an opportunity to do what we called like the needs assessment, which is a required topic for DLAC. And we really centered it on the idea for parents of how virtual learning was going when we frame our Lcap goals. Some things we can address with our marketing materials at school, such as our newsletter. I think that parents still would like some more clarity about how students with iPads get communication versus students with Chromebooks, and I think those are things that we can internally do. Another area, though, that they're still bringing up, which, you know, I have to admit, participating in a virtual manner has really improved with our parents, but there is still a need for really that hands-on technology training so that they know how to set up an email, how to manage their communications. And so, and the parents were positive about the support that their children were receiving. But I think that there are some more things that we can do to continue to engage them. So that's my report for tonight.
Excellent job. It was so heartwarming to drive by the school and see kids there in the field. I was just like, oh my God, I'm so excited. Yeah, that was good.
Well, and as I shared today, I'm like, who would have thunk this is my 25th year in education of having kids excited to come to school to take a test. They're like, yeah, I'm taking a test.
That's exactly right. Well, thank you so much, Nicole, for that. And anybody have any questions for Nicole? Just want to check. Okay, then we will go on to Raul and give you the floor.
Thank you. I'm going to group Lcap goal number 1 and Lcap goal number 2 together again. So Lcap goal number 1, ensuring academic excellence for all students, and Lcap goal number 2, providing a safe, healthy, and positive school environment. You may have seen the recent article of the Press Democrat where it brought to light some of the challenges that many students are facing. The report stated that with 4 years of calamities, with the wildfires, power shutoffs, and the global pandemic, Sonoma County students stood apart in a recent survey where 70% of the 4,500 high school students that took the survey reported that feeling anxious about the future was their #1 impediment. The article also stated that the failure rates of students had doubled in many of the schools, and that was a big concern for those schools for Sonoma County that they held an emergency summit to discuss. So last month I presented information on a survey that we gave our students when they returned from the 2-week evacuation. And I just wanted to share the results of that survey with you today. So Paula's going to be sharing the presentation, and then I'll go on to more of my report. Okay, so this is again the results from that survey where we had 337 students take the survey. 55 were 7th graders, 59 were 8th graders, 65, and so forth and so on. You can see the numbers there. So great participation. Again, it was part of an activity in the class. So we feel really good about the participation and the information that we gained from the survey. So one of the questions was just for fun question was would you rather be rich or happy? Should we poll the board members right now on this one? No. So you see there that 75.7% opted to be happy instead of rich, where you still had a quarter of the students preferring to be rich. And then we got into more how are you feeling since the evacuations, or not how are you feeling, but how are you doing? With 1, I'm not handling things well. 2, someone not handling things. 3, we're neutral. 4, handling things well. And then 5, everything's great. So you see that this graph shows that really, for the most part, most students are doing well. But something that I want to caution you on is that when you see these numbers, the reality is that trauma is happening on our student population and also our staff members and community. And sometimes when we have this information, it's good to take it with a grain of salt that especially year after year of trauma, it gets compounded, and the resiliency rate starts to diminish the more trauma that you experience. So just wanted to keep that in consideration, that even though our numbers show that our kids are doing fine, a lot of times is the knowledge of trauma. When you compare yourself to your peers, you don't feel like, hey, I'm doing fine because everybody in my peer group is doing fine too. But what the survey did in Sonoma County is that it compared Sonoma County to other counties that have not experienced the trauma, and that's why they saw a difference there. So we just to also point out that we did follow up with all the kids that say that they were not doing well. We did follow up with those students. But that's fine, Paula, to go to the next one. So, and then the other question was, are you worried about any of your family members or friends? And you see there that about 50% of our students were either worried or somewhat worried about their families or friends. And primarily we had to do with the fires, but also with the loss of job and opportunities or income because of the fires and the virus as well. And then the following question was about whether you wanted to have a virtual meeting with a trusted adult. And again, some mentioned that they did, but not immediately, and others said yes, as soon as possible. And again, we followed up with all those students that had indicated that they wanted to follow-up meeting. Now, this next slide is our grade percent distribution from Q1 of last year compared to Q1 of this year. I just, again, based on that article, I wanted to see are we really giving more Fs? Or are we distributing about the same as last Q1 2019? And here you have the percent distribution. So for instance, A's, we went from 45.1% in 2019 to 52% in 2020. B's 23.9% 2019 to 18.4% this current quarter. And then the C grade distribution from 13.9 to 11.9, a little drop there. The D's are pretty consistent from 8% to 7%. And the F went up a little bit, but not by much, right? It wasn't a double increase of the percentages. So that was, again, reassuring. But again, I want to point out that part of what I attribute this to is that, you know, we have teachers are working very hard in making the curriculum accessible. We also, you know, our staff has been really flexible with the either providing assignments that have choice, so the students are able to pick different types of assignments for the same purpose of the grade. And then also the flexibility of the due dates, because we know our students are going through a lot. Teachers have allowed for late work, or have allowed for flexibility of the due dates as well. And they've, you know, part of the Zoom process and going to virtual learning is establishing those routines. And that's something, again, teachers and support staff has been really helpful in doing, establishing those routines and really trying to establish relationship with students, even though it's a lot more difficult through this medium. And just going back again, we're all in this together, but then going back to my report, I just wanted to also mention that, you know, when we talk about our students and their well-being, we also have to keep in consideration our staff and their well-being as well. They're, you know, under a lot of pressure. They have to manage not only the classrooms, but the family situations at home. And I just, you know, want to applaud them for their hard work, but also, you know, asking them through this medium to take a time for themselves as well. Take a deep breath every now and then. So continuing on with my report, Nicole mentioned about the map testing. We started our map testing last week. This baseline assessment was postponed due to the power outages in the area, but we started last week with math. We'll continuing this week with with English, and then next week with science. And the data that we receive will help guide the instruction and support student achievement, as well as engage our families and students in this important conversation about taking ownership for their own learning as family. And then also wanted to mention that we recently reviewed and updated our hybrid model to be more in line with our current schedule and facilitate easy transition. You know, there's plus and cons to any model, but and we, you know, I work with the staff there. They're really looking at trying out something, and if it doesn't work, we reevaluate and make changes if we need to. And finally, Lcap goal number 3, increase parent engagement and enhance communication. And then staying with this topic of social emotional health of our students, as Nicole mentioned, our ELEC meeting was really well attended. We had over 45 participants in that meeting. But parents expressed really concern with the pressures that the students are under this year. We heard a resounding message about the challenges that the evacuations and the power outages have had on students, their grades, and feeling overwhelmed. And I'll be definitely bringing back this information to the staff as well, so I can share that with them. And that is my report.
Thank you so much, Raul. I just want to say that I'm happy you're here too. All this stuff going on with Annalie and El Molino is breaking my heart right now. Okay, and then we'll move on now. It is Brianna's turn. Are you ready? Do you have a report, Brianna? Okay.
Yeah, I have my report ready. So I know we have all been having issues recently with our power being cut off all the time. It's pretty irritating having to lose power, especially when things are already hard to digest and get used to. Many students are dealing with this 3 or 4 times per month for a span of about 2 to 3 days, and this is very discouraging due to the fact that we all have things to do, and if they were a little behind before, now they are bombarded with even more work, and then they don't have time to even process all the work when they have to complete because another power outage sets them even more behind. And then I know students are extremely frustrated with the situation. It's hard to even find a little bit of normality in all this chaos. I think I speak for all when I say that we really appreciate the majority of our teachers for being comprehensive. This is just out of everyone's control and not much can be done but sit and wait it out. So now for an update regarding ASB. Last time I updated everyone, we had just barely begun the class shirt design process. But as of last week, we have begun the process of collecting the money for each grade's class shirts. And this is actually one of the only things we have been able to really focus on. We have discussed some ideas for homecoming, but there's just not many things we can do because of COVID. It has really become disheartening to try and make any plan come to life when ideas just keep getting shut down. And it would really make a difference if we could at least like host activities in which we all obviously follow the guidelines set in place. So everyone could use a little distraction from all the problems we have going on, and it would really make our senior year a lot better. I think we can all agree that we just really need things to return to normal. And that's all for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You know, you can come to us if you need anything. If you guys come up with ideas, just come to us and let us know what you're thinking. I know Erin will do her best to try to make whatever we can happen. Okay. All right. Then now Brianna, you know, you don't have to stay on, but you're welcome to stay on. Up to you. Moving to Michael, Director of Educational Services and HR.
All right, good evening, everyone. I can share with you that many of the procedures that we've been working on and creating to deal with COVID-19 are now in place. And over the last month, we saw a lot of those kind of come to fruition. Our new attendance and engagement procedures to deal with SB 98 are in place. And you know, this law, which from the legislature is good intent. It's a wide-ranging legislation to deal with distance learning, came into place, and then school districts across the state kind of grappled with, well, what does this mean for us on how we need to now set up our systems to account for student attendance and engagement in distance learning. And I think we're fortunate to work with Aries, which is a large company. It's our student information system. And they engaged pretty directly with the state to figure out what the state wanted. And then we worked very closely with Aries to kind of reset up our systems, work with our teachers, as teachers need to do a few different things. But we are now fully in place with that and compliant. Our new procedures for substitute teachers in distance learning are in place. Just one of those things that you kind of take for granted of subs coming to your sites and taking over for teachers. And in distance learning, it comes very, very complex, right? How do we get teachers into Zoom and Google Meet and Google Classroom and all those things? It was a collaborative process with our site administrators, technology team, but those procedures are in place, and we've started to see substitutes on campus coming to campus and then doing their distance learning subbing from there. With 2 recent cases of COVID-19 within the district, our procedures for contact tracing, stakeholder outreach, and campus cleaning were put into place. And then we are in the phase of strategically bringing students back to campus in small numbers prior to a hybrid model. And Nicole spoke to what that looked like with MAP testing. I think you know, Nicole deserves to be commended, her and her whole team. That process was well organized, deliberate, well thought out, and it went very well. It's something that's challenging and requires a lot of thought. Beyond that, a group of our paraprofessionals at the elementary school, along with our ELD teacher at the junior senior high school, have been trained to proctor the initial LPAC and have begun bringing students back to campus for one-to-one testing as of last week. And students have the option and families have the option of on-campus testing or virtual testing, but students are coming back to campus for their initial LPAC test. Students are also returning for in-person special education assessment when in-person assessment is necessary. And some of the assessments we do for special education can be done remotely, but then there are some that just can't. Psychoeducational intelligence tests, any testing for very young students are just hard to do those things remotely. And so those on-campus in-person assessments are occurring. And then starting this week, special education students are starting to return for one-to-one support. And this won't replace their instructional day, but if a special education student needs a little extra help, a case manager or specialist is able to bring them back and offer that. And again, something that requires a lot of thought, and I appreciate the team's engagement. We met with the special education teams, site administrators to figure out what this needs to look like, but that is set to start this week. So looking at some next steps, I think all this work that we're doing is going to have to be rethought out in hybrid. So we talk about attendance or subbing or a number of other issues that we feel good about having problem solved. We need to go back to them now as we start to eventually look at hybrid, and they're going to need another set of strategies to make sure that everything is in place for that to work. But we look forward to it, and I think the collaborative process that we put in place to problem solve benefits us, and that's where we're at. And that's my report.
Great. Thank you, Michael. Does anybody have any questions for Michael? You guys are doing a great job. Keep it up. Just when we feel like we have our arms around it, something else. Okay, 8.5, Maureen, Director of Business Services.
Okay, I only have a couple of things tonight. The first thing I wanted to tell the board about was that General Motors has donated 500,000 masks to all the school districts in the state of California. So California Department of Ed is sending those out to the counties, and then we will receive some masks from our county based on ADA. This is actually the second time that CDE has deployed PPE equipment to school sites. Back in July, we received sanitizer, N95 masks, cloth masks, surgical masks, face shields, and thermometers. So just a shout out to CDE for giving us some PPE equipment that we don't have to spend our own district dollars on. That's wonderful. And shout out to General Motors for donating some masks to the entire state of California. I wanted to talk to the board tonight about technology. This is where I've spent a majority of my time in the last few weeks. Currently, we are working with a temporary agency called Robert Half to hire a 30-day IT tech to help Marty in the IT department. This person will help with inventory and also prepping Chromebooks and iPads and all the carts for going back to in-person learning. We currently in the district have about 2,000 devices now with all of our Chromebooks and iPads and hotspots and document cameras and all kinds of equipment that we have purchased to help us in distance learning and in-person learning. And so being able to have someone come in and help Marty for the next 30 days will get us prepared that much quicker and more prepared for when kids do come back to in-learning. So in about, well, I can't even remember when the date was, a few weeks back, probably 3 weeks back at this point, our district lost our main firewall. And at the time we had 2 firewalls running. We had a primary and a secondary. So we are operating on our secondary firewall right now. We received a new quote for a new primary firewall, and that quote came in at $145,000. The secondary quote for a secondary firewall, which we have to upgrade because the secondary one we're operating on now is too slow, was $110,000. So $255,000 for 2 firewalls. I was astounded by that quote. And so I wanted to go out and do some digging on my own. Working in other districts, it just seemed that it was an awfully high amount of money to pay for a firewall. So I started talking to other vendors. I started talking to other districts. It kind of made me take a step back, and I talked to Aaron, I talked to Michael, and I think it's time for us right now to look at our entire technology program and department and make sure that we are being as cost efficient as we can and effective as we can with what we do have as a network and equipment and so forth. Because we have the secondary operating, we have not a lot of time, but a little bit of time to be able to do more research on not only pricing for that, but possibly other ways to manage our network. So we'll talk about an action item that's up later to help us with that. But in the meantime, other firewalls that I'm looking at are in the $12,000 to $15,000 range. So keep that in the back of your mind while we continue to talk about technology. We're also looking into a backup main internet connection, right now we have Comcast as our main connection. Comcast lines run up Silverado Trail. So when the fire happened, we lost about 8 miles of Comcast. They did repair it very quickly and they were able to get it back up and running very quickly during the fires. But what we noticed happened was we had little outages as we came back to school. So we had 3 days of outages. One of those days was for 3 hours, I think, and we had to actually cancel classes. And so because we are in the area that we are in, we want to make sure that we can have another backup connection in case we do lose our main line. And so we're looking at right now at an E-rate application for a backup connection, and one that will come in either through Highway 29 or 128, depending on what company bids for that backup connection. So we would be safe in being able to still stay connected even through tragic happenings like fires. Looking at the big picture, we need to take a look at our own network management and how we can sustain that on our own. We need to look at cost effectiveness and efficiency, like I stated before. And again, we'll talk about this a little bit more when we get to the action item with capital advisors tonight. But I think it's really time that the district really look at what we are doing as a whole for technology and making sure our needs and our goals for student education, that technology is backing that up, and we're meeting those needs and goals through technology as well. And that's all I have tonight.
Okay. All right, then we'll go ahead and move on to Erin before we get back over to the action items. Go ahead, Erin.
Thank you, Julie. Under Lcap goal number 1, ensuring academic excellence for all students, I've had the opportunity to observe a number of virtual classrooms in the last couple of weeks, and I just can't say enough about the quality of instruction. So I greatly appreciate the time that teachers have put into training in the last couple of months, as well as the planning and the cooperative groups. And it's just outstanding. I would encourage all of you to take a half an hour or an hour to also observe the classroom. I think you'll be very, very impressed. And then I want to let you know that I met with representatives from the Up Valley Family Center on Friday to discuss beginning a new tutoring program in Calistoga, which would be a replication of the program that's been operating in St. Helena since 2017. And the Family Center completely manages the program, which includes recruiting adults and high school students in the community. They interview them, they complete a background check, they provide training to the volunteers, and then they match them to elementary school students who have been identified by their teacher for needing academic support. So the Rotary Club has already asked me a couple of times if there's some way that they can assist our students this year, and I'm certain that there are optimists out there as well who would be interested in serving as tutors. So I'm very excited about the partnership again with the Family Center, and so they are next going to be creating an MOU, and I will bring that to the board for approval. Then under Lcap goal number 2, providing a safe, healthy, and positive school environment. As you know, the personnel register on our agenda tonight includes recommendations for fall coaches. So if the board approves those candidates tonight, we will begin sports conditioning at the junior senior high school this week. So our athletic directors have been busy developing COVID-19 guidelines, and they will be closely supervising the conditioning to ensure that our coaches and student athletes are following the mandatory safety procedures. Dr. Reluccio shared that there is currently a group of county health officers who are meeting with CIF representatives and the California Department of Public Health to discuss the potential for reopening of high school athletic competitions sometime in December. That decision has not yet been made, or the date. And then I also continue to get requests from a variety of community agencies to use the junior senior high school parking lots. It's become a very busy place. Last Friday, it was used by Adventist Health as a mobile COVID-19 testing site. The Family Center is also conducting a drive-through giveaway for PPE for families on November 14th. So they're also going to be using the site. It's been used multiple times for food distributions by the food pantry. And I certainly think it's good for our district to support these community efforts. And I appreciate Raul and the entire junior high school staff members' patience, because on those dates, if it's being held during the school day, they're having to find alternative parking. So they have been certainly very understandable. or understanding. However, I'm hopeful that the county is going to make the fairgrounds more accessible to these agencies, because once our in-person school begins again, our parking lots will no longer be available because we will have more staff and students parking in them. Then under LCAP goal number 3, increasing parent engagement and enhancing communication. I was also excited to have great participation at the DLAC and ELAC meetings last week, and I really appreciate all the effort that Monica Baldenegro puts into organizing and leading the meetings. She does a great job. And as Raul mentioned, or maybe it's Nicole, the parents did express a desire to increase their own technology skills so they can better assist their own children with virtual learning. So I've been working with the Napa Valley Adult Education Consortium to implement parent technology workshops for Spanish speakers. So they've already hired an instructor and are designing the course content, and that will include a couple things that Nicole mentioned, learning basic computer operations on the device that their child is learning in school, so whether it's an iPad or a Chromebook. Learning how to create an email account, navigating our student information system, ARIES, so they can monitor their child's attendance and grades. We also want to assist them with learning about the 2 instructional programs that we're using in our virtual classrooms, so both Google Classroom and Seesaw. And then helping them become more familiar with the Zoom platform so that they can attend our parent engagement meetings, because of course all of our parent engagement meetings are being held through Zoom now. So I'm excited about that opportunity. And there will be no charge to the district. We receive adult ed funding for that. Then lastly, I just want to talk to you about the timeline for transitioning to our own district's hybrid model. I'll be coming back to a later date to share with what Raul had mentioned earlier. Dr. Reluccio has continued to share the COVID data with me each week, and that's just specific to Calistoga. And I'm very pleased to report that the positive case rate in Calistoga has been declining. So on October, remember our high point was in September and early October. So on October 21st, we were down to a 5% positivity rate in the community. But as of October 28th, that has declined to 4%. So I'm going to review the data with Dr. Reluccio again at the end of next week to determine if our community's COVID cases have continued to move in the right direction, that this last week hasn't just been an anomaly. And then I'd like to set the tentative date for the transition to blended learning on 11/30. So that's the day after we return from Thanksgiving break. So that will give us time to finish our mock testing at the junior, senior high school, complete the K-12 LPAC assessments, be able to serve kids in small groups and individually. I'd also like to request that we have a special special board meeting. I don't have a date tonight, but once we have the latest health data so that you can review the updated recommendations for each school's hybrid model. And that is all I have tonight. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anybody have any questions for Erin on any of that? We'll keep our fingers crossed for November 30th. Okay, then moving into the consent agenda. So just to remind everybody, actions proposed for the consent agenda are deemed routine in nature and are enacted with one motion. There's no separate discussion of these items unless any member of the board, the audience, or staff requests a specific item to be removed from the consent agenda for separate action. So at this point, I would ask, is everybody okay with the consent agenda as it stands? Yes? Okay, then I'm just looking for a motion to go ahead and approve that.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
How about I take Indira and Mark, I'll take you a second. How's that? And then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, and then it's roll call vote. So President Elkson, aye. Clerk Reed?
Aye.
Trustee Lopez Jones?
Aye.
Trustee Maxfield?
Aye.
Trustee Galindo?
Aye.
And
Student Rep Rubio?
I don't know.
Great, she's still here to vote. Okay, and that moves us on to action items. So 10.1, protocol for action items includes staff presentation, questions from the board, public input, deliberation by the board, and voting by the board. During public input, there will be a 3-minute time limit per person. So we will go back to Maureen on the annual and 5-year developer fees reports.
I don't have anything extra to add, Julie, unless the board wants to make any comments regarding the public hearing. If not, then we can move to an action if someone has a motion.
Great, then if nobody has any questions, I'll look for a motion.
I move that we accept
Motion.
the report as presented.
Okay, I'm going to take Matt, and who wants to second?
There you go.
Thank you, Mark. And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then, that's not roll call, right? No. And then 10.3 agreement with Capital Advisors. So Maureen, why don't you run us through that?
Okay, we have 2 agreements before the board tonight with Capital Advisors, also known as Digital Advisors. Digital Advisors is a division of Capital Advisors. And just a little background on Capital Advisors, they are a financial school district. They talk to school districts about the finances of the state of California and state of California politics. So they're a great company that I go to for budget information. They do budget presentations when the governor comes out with his proposals and whatnot. And a couple of years ago, they realized that school districts in the state of California really needed some assistance with technology. So they created their own division of a technology department that they call Digital Advisors. And one of the agreements tonight is to have a consulting agreement with Digital Advisors for our district. And what brought me to wanting to bring this before the board was that I wanted to have an expert opinion on how school districts should advance in technology without it being a private consulting firm that might want to gain monetarily in a long relationship with the district in network management or whatnot. So what Digital Advisors does is they are available to any of us at the district in the technology department. They're a phone call away, a webinar away. They will even come visit if we want them to. And we can ask them any questions related to current technology practices, where we're headed, where we want to go. They will let us know if we're making the right decisions on equipment purchases. They'll even they'll do bidding for us. They'll do proposals for us. They really kind of are there to support districts in their technology departments. This is a 12-month contract. It's $2,500 a month. I can use them as little as I want or as much as I want. And again, it's not just me, it's our entire admin team, our technology department. Anybody who has questions can use them as support in technology. So that's the first contract. The second contract is also with Digital Advisors, but it's for a separate team of Digital Advisors to come in and actually review and assess our entire technology infrastructure, department, positions, where we are now, where we see ourselves going. They will analyze everything from top to bottom. And that is a review and assessment that takes about 30 days. They interview all of our staff, as far as our technology staff and our admin staff, and then they'll even want to talk to a few teachers just to see what is happening in the classroom with technology as well. They do site visits, and they also compile a report with recommendations that will come back to the board when they're finished. I'm moving this a little more quickly than probably normal because we are at this stage in the game where we do need to purchase a new firewall, and I'm trying to make this all a part of our current purchases plus our future in technology. And I've already worked with Digital Advisors, whether the board accepts them tonight or not. I've already worked with them a little bit and they've been fantastic. I called a couple of districts they're working with right now. One is a bigger district and another is a district just the same size as us, and they had nothing but great things to say about them as far as being available to the district and really supporting and being able to use Digital Advisors as a resource for us, which I think we truly need right now because we are looking at developing our technology department differently than where we are right now with technology. The first contract I said was $2,500 a month. It's about 12 months. We can extend that if we need to afterwards. I feel like if we have a report from the assessment and review, that we will have a direction of where we're going as a district and we won't need them past the 12 months. But the report for the assessment and the review is a $10,000 cost. And so remember earlier I told you how much the server would cost if we went with our current contract provider. And we can probably now get a server between $12,000 and $15,000 versus $255,000. I think there's plenty of cost savings there that both of these agreements are very well worth the money spent. And again, we're still going to be saving money because of that piece of equipment we won't have to buy. Hopefully that makes sense.
Okay, just a few questions. Will we start our monthly contract with them after they have completed the 30-day initial analysis?
Nope, we're going to start it with them after the board agrees to hiring them if they do that tonight.
I just wondered if we need
So-
until they're done with their initial investment. But anyways, that's just one thought, but you know better than I if you need them. Obviously, it has to go hand in hand with our master plan, because the first time that we really knew we needed to do a big technology overview was with phase 1. And I think Indira and Jeff will jump in, where we, you know, invested close to $1 million in the infrastructure. So where we go in the direction of the phase 3 and our master plan are going to be a big portion of it too, right?
Yes, and that's actually one of the selling points of digital advisors as well, is that they are very familiar with capital outlay and technology, and have helped many districts in bond sales and bond plans for technology infrastructure and advancement of equipment. So very well versed in that area. And yes, that was a thought in the back of my mind as we move forward through the master plan as well, Julie.
We also have to remember that was prior COVID-19, you know, and we have plans that under normal times, if you will. Now, you know, virtual learning and distance learning is upon us, and we really need to have a plan instead of just shooting in the dark and putting bandage solutions to things. I think we need to have a clear plan, and we have, you know, people who know how these things work advise us and, you know, help us find the right path.
Most definitely. Just in you know, talking to other districts as far as the support that they've given them, not only in the plans and you know, where our districts are going in the future, but that immediate, you know, there's so many times during the day I'll be like, oh, I need to check, you know, out this, I don't know, this type of, you know, equipment that is really old for us, and maybe there's something newer out there. I don't know where to go. I don't know, you know, unless I just start Googling stuff. I could make a phone call and these guys could have, you know, 3 different bids to me within 48 hours. And to me, that's so much more time saving, and the fact that they have that knowledge and they have those resources, they have those relationships with all kinds of different vendors. And yeah, I just, like I said, they've already given me so much help, and we haven't even entered into a contract with them yet. So I know that I already feel like there's that support there.
So this will resolve the firewall issue that started that, and also so with the 30,000 annually that we're hoping to drop eventually, and then the 10,000 for the additional agreement, that's going to provide us a firewall as well. Is that what I understood?
No, Mark, the firewall is a separate piece of equipment. So the firewall is probably going to run us between $12,000 and $15,000 if we go the route through digital advisors and the research that I've been doing through them. Our current contract that we have with our technology contractors, they're the ones that are bidding it at over $255,000. And so right away, it made me want to go out and do the research of better equipment. And what it boils down to is we have servers and we have firewalls right now that are way exceed what we really need for a district. And that's why they're so expensive. So you would probably see a firewall like this at maybe a LA Unified. not at Calistoga. And so there's just so many different options that we have that, again, can save us a lot of money in the long run and still do a great job, if not a better job than what's happening right now.
Great. Well, I think it's a smart move considering the use of technologies is going to get more and more as we move forward. So, okay, anybody else questions on this one? Okay, then I am looking for a motion.
I have a question. So well, during that time that we have that assistance that's so much needed at the end of that year, do we have somebody that's learning all the ads and whatnot to our systems? So because there's got to be a better way. I mean, especially if we're considering dropping in a year. That sounds like something we might want to keep on for a long term. Anybody else in that field that might have more a long term assistance?
Well, so what this company will help us do, Digital Advisors, is once we do an assessment and review and we figure out how we want to structure our department, they will actually help us do job descriptions. If we're going to do a position, they're going to help us vet different people out there that might be a good fit for us. So they provide that support. And then we as a district, of course, the board decides who's going to, what positions we're going to hire for and how our budget can, contain what we want our technology department to be. So they're really just an advisory.
But you said they're going to put out bids and all that. Is there any other like junk fees that would be added on, equipment percentages on equipment purchase, or is it just that flat 30 and that's all encompassing?
That's correct. So that $2,500, yeah, that $2,500 a month will cover whatever we ask them to do. And it could be more. They might be looking at $150 an hour, and we'll spend way more hours than if we have to that month. So they're not looking at it on an hour per hour basis. They're looking at it as, hey, for $2,500 a month, you can use us as much as you want.
Okay. If no more questions, I'm looking for a motion to go ahead and approve both of the agreements with Capital Advisors.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
I'm going to take Matt on the second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Now we will move to 10.4, which is board policies and admin regulations that we first read last meeting. Correct, Erin?
That's correct, and there were not any changes to the policies from last meeting.
Great. So just looking for a motion to go ahead and approve those.
So moved.
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So closing items, 11.1 board meeting calendar. Our next meeting is December 14th, and we are going to continue on with Zoom. And then 11.2 tentative future agenda items, organizational meeting, and first interim financial report. And then there's no need to reconvene to closed session. So I am just looking for motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Mark, you seconding?
Yep.
Perfect. And all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Thank you, everybody. Great meeting.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.